It was supposed to be the perfect birthday until my husband's sister stood up and made an announcement that shattered everything. But what she didn't know, I already knew her darkest secret, and I was about to drop a bomb that would blow the whole room apart. I was standing at the table, holding the knife, ready to cut the cake, a red velvet, just how I like it. My husband Caleb stood beside me, smiling. And then, of course, she spoke. His sister. "Hold on," she said, clinking her glass with that fake sweet grin. "Before we do this, I have something to say." I paused, knife still in hand. Everyone turned to her. "I just think it's adorable how we're all here acting like this is some big milestone," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "I mean, come on, 35? That's not exactly newsworthy." A few people laughed nervously. "But you know what is a milestone?" she said, pausing for dramatic effect. "Creating life. I'm pregnant." The room burst into gasps, cheers, claps. She placed her hand on her stomach like she was cradling a crown jewel. All attention shifted to her. My birthday disappeared in a second. Just vanished. And Caleb? My husband? He barely blinked. "She's just joking around," he mumbled like it was nothing. I stood there, frozen, knife still hovering above the cake. My smile didn't falter, though. No, I just smiled wider. Because what Olivia didn't know was that she had just walked straight into her own reckoning. The sister who couldn't share the spotlight. I'm Ava, 35 years old. And for the last 9 years, I've been married to Caleb. He's 37 now. We built a life in Chicago. A life I used to think was solid. It wasn't perfect, but then again, what marriage is. I loved him. I thought. I believed that he loved me too. But there was always a shadow, a dark cloud hanging over everything. Her name is Olivia, Caleb's older sister, 39, the kind of woman who needs the spotlight like most people need oxygen. If I ever had good news, she somehow had better news. If I bought something nice, she magically needed the same thing, only bigger, flashier. And whenever I accomplished something, she was right there to suck the air out of the room. At first, I tried to ignore it. I told myself she was just one of those people. Annoying, sure, but harmless. I didn't want to be the overly sensitive wife. I didn't want to start fights over eye rolls and backhanded compliments. So I let it slide until it became impossible to ignore. She hijacked our wedding, by announcing her own engagement during the reception toast. That relationship lasted all of 4 months. Well, I got a huge promotion at work. We were mid-celebration when she stood up and casually announced that she was thinking about going back to school. Just a thought. She never enrolled. But still, the night became about her. Every time I brought it up to Caleb, he brushed it off. "She's just being Olivia," he'd say. "You know, she jokes around. Don't let it get to you." So I didn't. For years, I swallowed it down. Buried the frustration. Told myself I was being dramatic. But the truth is, it wasn't just annoying anymore. It was suffocating. And my birthday, that night, with the cake knife still in my hand and fake congratulations echoing off the walls, that was the moment everything finally snapped into place. Because Olivia thought she had just stolen my moment again. She had no idea I had already stolen hers. The lie beneath the laughter. 3 weeks before my birthday, everything changed. It was late. Caleb had fallen asleep on the couch, and I was tidying up like always. I didn't mean to snoop. I swear I didn't. But his laptop was open on the dining table, screen still glowing. I walked past it, about to shut it down, when I saw it. An email. Subject line, deposit confirmed. It was from the bank. A $2,500 transfer from Caleb to Olivia. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Why was my husband sending that kind of money to his sister? A knot formed in my stomach. It didn't feel right. Not even close. I told myself not to jump to conclusions. Maybe she needed help. Maybe it was for a medical bill or something innocent. But the truth was screaming in my gut. So I looked deeper. And what I found broke something inside me. Bank statements. Pages of them. Caleb had been sending Olivia thousands of dollars. Every single month, quiet transfers hidden in the noise. Then came the texts. Dozens of them. Conversations between the two of them that made my hands tremble. Olivia, what if she finds out? Caleb, we can say the baby's someone else's. Olivia, she won't believe it. She'll go nuclear. And that's when the air left the room. Olivia wasn't just jealous. She wasn't just toxic. She was pregnant with my husband's child. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at the screen, while the weight of it all crushed my chest. My husband, my marriage, my life, all of it shattered in one ugly, horrifying moment. I stood up slowly, grabbed my purse, and walked out the door. I didn't know where I was going. I just walked. Around the block, down the street, through the cold, dark silence of the city. And somewhere in that aimless wandering, I made a decision. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to collapse. I was going to ruin them, both of them, in a way they'd never see coming. The calm before the storm. By the time I got back home that night, I wasn't a wreck. I was something worse. I was calm. Because I knew what I had to do. I hired a private investigator the very next morning. No second guessing. No waiting around for more lies. I told him everything. Names, dates, the money transfers. And then I waited. It didn't take long. Within a few days, he had more than enough. Photos, messages, hotel check-ins, credit card receipts from romantic dinners, gifts, one weekend getaway that made me want to rip my heart out. Every sordid detail. A year-long affair. Right under my nose. Olivia and Caleb sneaking around like high schoolers, destroying everything I'd built, everything I believed in. I printed it all, every email, every receipt, every screenshot, and placed them in a tidy little folder. It sat in my drawer like a grenade. All it needed was the right moment to blow. And I waited. I waited for my birthday, because I knew Olivia wouldn't be able to help herself. She'd steal the spotlight. She always did. And when she did, when she thought she had one again, that's when I'd destroy her. And Caleb. So there we were. 3 weeks later, back in our living room, surrounded by friends, music, and laughter. Me with a wine glass in one hand, a cake knife in the other. Olivia standing up to announce her pregnancy like it was the second coming. Everyone gasped. Everyone clapped. She soaked in the attention like a starlet at a premiere. But me? I just smiled. I raised my glass and said, Olivia, a baby? That's such incredible news. And even crazier, considering the father is already married. Silence. You could hear the music stop. Literally. Like someone had yanked the plug. Olivia's smile fell. Caleb turned ghost white. Someone whispered, "What?" And then I tapped my phone. One touch. That's all it took. The room filled with the sounds of Caleb and Olivia's own voices from the messages. The receipts. The lies. And just like that, the grenade went off. The moment the room burned down. The silence only lasted a few seconds, but it felt like an hour. No one moved. No one breathed. Every single person was frozen in place, eyes bouncing between me, Caleb and Olivia. Then it hit. Caleb made this weird, choking sound, like he wanted to say something, but forgot how words worked. Olivia just stood there, wide-eyed, blinking like a deer in traffic. Her hand dropped from her stomach. Her little act, over. And then came the chaos. "What the hell are you talking about?" Caleb barked, like I was the one ruining everything. Olivia's voice went shrill, high and shaking. "You're insane. You don't know what you're saying." I didn't flinch, not even a blink. I reached down, took another slow sip of my wine, and slid the folder across the table like I was laying down a royal flush. "If I'm lying," I said softly, "then no one will mind taking a little peek." My best friend, Jordan, grabbed it first, flipped it open. She didn't get past the second page before gasping, "Oh my God." Caleb lunged forward, trying to snatch it from her. Jordan pulled back like he was radioactive. "Sit down," she snapped. And to my total delight, he actually listened. She kept reading aloud. Hotel receipts, bank transfers, the texts. Each line she read felt like another nail in the coffin. The room went from awkward to horrified in a heartbeat. Murmurs turned into gasps. A few people just got up and walked out. That's when Caleb's mom, Evelyn, the same woman who once called me the best thing that ever happened to her son, yanked her hand off Olivia's shoulder like she'd touched a snake. "Tell me this isn't true," she whispered to Olivia, voice trembling. Olivia opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Caleb, the coward he is, looked at me instead. "Why would you do this?" he snapped. I laughed. I actually laughed. "Oh, I'm sorry, Caleb. Was I supposed to just smile while you kept screwing your own sister? You could have heard a pin drop until someone dropped a wine glass. Shattered. Olivia's mouth twisted. It's not like that, she cried, voice cracking. I tilted my head. Then what is it like, Olivia? Her hands curled into fists. You don't understand. Caleb and she caught herself. Too late. The whole room heard it. And then she ran. Straight through the guests. Shoving past people. Nearly knocked over a chair on the way out. Disappeared into the night. Caleb hesitated. For half a second. Then chased after her like a fool. Gone. Just like that. And me? I turned back to everyone, wine glass still in hand. So, I said with a smile, anyone still want cake? A few awkward chuckles. Jordan clapped me on the back like I'd just scored the winning goal in a championship game. And then Evelyn, poor Evelyn, broke down, sobbing, collapsed into a chair, head in her hands. Jordan rubbed her back. You need water? Or maybe a therapist? Meanwhile, Caleb's dad, the ever-stoic Victor, stood up, grabbed his coat, and said in the calmest voice imaginable, I'm going to kill him. And, judging by the way he marched toward the door, he meant it. Blood lies and broken bones. I followed Victor outside. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but I didn't care. I wanted to see it. I needed to see it. And there they were, Caleb and Olivia, arguing in the driveway, just under the flickering porch light. The masks were gone now. No fake smiles. No pretend inocencia. Just raw, ugly panic. You absolute idiot. Olivia screamed, jabbing a finger into Caleb's chest. How the hell did you let her find out? Caleb was pacing like a caged animal, running his hands through his hair. I don't know. She must have been snooping. That was it. That was my cue. I stepped into the light. Calm. Collected. You think I was snooping? I said, voice like ice. You left your laptop wide open, genius. They both turned. Caleb's eyes widened. Olivia's nostrils flared. And Victor? He didn't say a word. He just walked right up to Caleb and punched him. Hard. Caleb hit the ground like a sack of bricks, blood pouring from his nose, groaning like a dying animal. Probably a concussion. Definitely a broken nose. It was beautiful. Olivia shrieked. Caleb rolled onto his side, clutching his face. You broke he moaned. Victor just stood over him, breathing heavy, fists still clenched. Then flashing red and blue lights. 2 squad cars pulled up to the curb. Of course. Neighbors must have called it in. Can't say I blame them. We weren't exactly being quiet. An officer stepped out, eyes scanning the scene. What's going on here? Caleb, still on the ground and bleeding all over his shirt, groaned out, my dad hit me. Victor shrugged, casual as ever. Yep. The cop blinked. Oh, why? I stepped in before he could respond. Because my husband, I said, looking right at the officer, was having an affair with his own sister. The disgust on that cop's face? Worth every second of pain I'd gone through. Jesus Christ, he muttered under his breath. That's when Olivia's tears started. Not the real kind. No, these were her signature crocodile tears. The whiny, dramatic, look at me kind. It's not what it looks like, she wailed, burying her face in her hands like she was the victim. One of the officers rubbed his temple like he regretted his career choice. Ma'am, I don't even know what the hell this looks like. Caleb, still writhing on the sidewalk, coughed. Just get me out of here. The cop sighed and turned to Victor. Sir, we're going to have to take you in for assault. Victor didn't argue. Didn't say a word. He just nodded. That's when Evelyn came running out, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. Please, please don't arrest him. Please. She was clinging to Victor's arm like her world was ending. The younger cop looked like he wanted to crawl out of his skin. If the victim doesn't press charges, we can let it slide. They turned to Caleb. Still bleeding. Still humiliated. Still a pathetic mess. I just want to go home, he muttered. The officer turned back to Victor. You good with that? Victor scoffed. I've already wasted a punch on this piece of garbage. I'm not wasting any more energy. And that was it. No handcuffs. No arrests. No more screaming. Just the end of whatever illusion we'd all been living under. Caleb and Olivia limped toward his car, bruised, broken, exposed. They climbed in, slammed the doors, and drove off. No goodbye. No final word. No act to save face. And me? I walked back inside, picked up the cake knife, still sitting untouched on the table, and cut myself the biggest damn slice. Because the best part? This wasn't over. Not even close. The snake strikes back. I thought the night ended there. It should have. It should have ended with cake and closure. But as I sat there on the couch, fork in hand, sweet frosting on my tongue, something just didn't feel right. Olivia left too quietly. No final tantrum. No despedida. No attempt to spin the story. She didn't cry on the floor. She didn't fake a fainting spell. She didn't try to win anyone back. She just left. And if there's one thing I've learned about Olivia over the years, it's this. When she's quiet, she's dangerous. I went to bed that night, still suspicious. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't shake the feeling. And when I woke up the next morning, 50 missed calls, 12 unread texts. My heart dropped. At first, I thought it was aftermath, fallout from the family, maybe a friend tried to process the explosion. But then I saw the name lighting up my phone screen. My boss. And the message underneath? Call me ASAP. We need to talk. I sat up so fast the room spun. Hands shaking, I called him. Hello. His voice was cold. Stiff. The kind of tone people use when something's seriously wrong. Ava, we received an email this morning. Actually, multiple emails. About you. My mouth went dry. What kind of emails? He hesitated. Accusations, he said. Serious ones. Sexual harassment. Embezzlement. Workplace bullying. I almost dropped the phone. What? That's insane. That's a lie. I believe you, he said. But corporate has protocols. The emails came with photos, screenshots, and a written testimony from a former coworker. You're on administrative leave while we investigate. And just like that, I couldn't breathe. My head spun. My vision blurred. Who the hell would? And then it hit me. Olivia. Of course it was her. This wasn't revenge anymore. This was war. She didn't just want attention. She wanted to annihilate me, humiliate me, destroy every part of my life until I was crawling just like her. But what she didn't know was that I don't crawl. I fight. Ghosts from Olivia's past. The rest of that day, a blur. I was in full-on crisis mode, calling HR, calling my lawyer, combing through every possible connection that might have been twisted against me. The so-called testimony, fake. The former coworker they said it came from had never written a word of it. The screenshots, poorly doctored, laughably so, but that didn't matter. HR had to follow procedure, which meant I was stuck, trapped, in career limbo, while Olivia sat somewhere laughing at the wreckage she'd caused. She wasn't trying to win. She was trying to make me suffer. Well, two can play that game. That afternoon, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something in my gut told me to pick up. Hello. Silence. Then a quiet, hesitant voice. Is this Ava? Yes. Who is this? More silence. Then, my name is Brielle. I think we need to talk. It's about Olivia and Caleb. Everything inside me went still. What about them? A sharp inhale on the other end. Then, I'm Olivia's former best friend, and I know everything. We met that evening at a tiny coffee shop on the edge of town. Brielle looked worn down, late 30s, blonde, eyes hollow like someone who'd seen too much. And she didn't waste time. Olivia is poison, she said, straight to my face. And I'm not just talking about what she did to you. I leaned in, heart pounding. Tell me everything. And oh, she did. Olivia wasn't new to this. She'd been tearing people apart for years. Brielle told me about a friend Olivia once framed by planting drugs in her car, then anonymously tipping off the police. Charges got dropped, eventually, but the woman lost her job, her reputation, her entire life. Another story. Olivia faked a stalker and blamed her ex destroyed his name in their community. She even blackmailed her own mother over a forged will. But the worst? She had done this exact thing before. 3 years ago, Brielle said, Olivia had an affair with another married man. When his wife found out, she tried to go public. Olivia fought back, sent fake evidence to her job, lied about abuse, tried to ruin her life. Histoire de her, meurtre. What happened to the wife? She lost everything. Her job, her friends, her sanity. She moved out of state just to escape. And Olivia? She won. My stomach turned. My hand shook under the table. My entire body screamed for justice. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Brielle looked me straight in the eye. Because she did it to me too, and I want to see her burn. And that was it. That was the moment I knew I wasn't alone. I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to end her. The trap is set. By the time I got home that night, I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused, laser sharp. This wasn't about heartbreak now, or even revenge. This was about justice, real justice. Olivia was a serial manipulator, a saboteur, a smiling wolf in lipstick. And if I didn't stop her, she'd do it again. To someone else. To anyone who got in her way. So I made the call. The private investigator I'd used before. I told him, I need everything you can find on Olivia. Every dirty secret. Every person she's hurt. Every twisted game she's played. He chuckled. You got it. And I made one more call. To Victor. The same man who had broken his son's nose in front of half our guest list. Victor, I said, voice steady calm. How would you like to help me destroy Olivia and Caleb? There was a pause. Then, the most satisfying reply I've ever heard. Tell me what to do. And just like that, the plan was in motion. The PI worked fast. Within days, he had a full dossier, Olivia's history laid bare. Evidence of defamation cases she'd settled out of court. Text messages from old victims. Legal records. Screenshots. Audio. Photos. Even a restraining order she once tried to cover up. Meanwhile, Brielle was making moves of her own. She reached out to someone Olivia hoped was long gone. Leah, the woman Olivia once framed for drug possession. And somehow, Brielle convinced her to talk. We met at a cafe 2 towns over, where Leah shared her story. Quiet, measured, but filled with the kind of pain you never forget. She'd been Olivia's best friend in college. They'd shared everything. Until one day, Leah started dating a guy Olivia had a crush on. That's all it took. Olivia planted pills in Leah's car and tipped off campus security. Charges were dropped, Leah said, but my parents pulled me out of school. I never went back. I sat there in stunned silence, the weight of it pressing into my chest. She ruined lives. Over nothing. It was time to go public, but not with a tweet, not with drama, with a surgical strike. We planned every step. Victor reached out to Evelyn, convinced her to host a family intervention. Something about rebuilding trust, talking things through, just the kind of emotionally manipulative bait Olivia couldn't resist. She agreed to come. So did Caleb. They thought it was a chance to clear the air. Maybe win the family back. Maybe flip the narrative. They had no idea they were walking straight into their own execution. The execution table. The evening of the so-called intervention arrived like a storm you can feel in your bones. Victor sat at the head of the table, jaw clenched, barely speaking. Evelyn was beside him, drained, eyes bloodshot from crying. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. Brielle and Leo were there too, quiet but ready. My closest friend Jordan sat next to me like backup muscle. And then they walked in. Olivia, Caleb, smiling, as if they still believed they could spin this into a redemption story. Caleb wore a smug look like he thought he'd somehow survive the fallout. Olivia, in true Olivia fashion, wore a soft beige dress and a martyr's expression, like she was there to forgive us. She didn't know she was already standing on the trapdoor. Victor cleared his throat. We need to talk. All of us. Caleb rolled his eyes. Dad, come on. This is ridiculous. Olivia crossed her arms. What is this, a family ambush? What do you want from us? I leaned forward, voice calm and razor sharp. We want the truth. Olivia gave a dramatic laugh. You already got the truth. Caleb and I are together. You don't have to like it, but that's reality now. I smiled slowly. Oh, Olivia, I wasn't talking about that truth. I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. Thicker than before. This one didn't just hold photos and texts. This was a historical record of destruction. This, I said, placing on the table, is who you really are. I flipped it open and slid the first document forward, a police report. Brielle's voice cut through the silence. You framed me, Olivia. You planted drugs in my car and almost ruined my life. Evelyn gasped. Victor leaned in, eyes locked on Olivia. Is that true? Olivia's face went tight. She's lying. But then Leah spoke. You did it to me too, she said, voice shaking but strong. Same story. Different year. I slammed another document on the table. Screenshots of emails Olivia had sent using fake addresses. Anonymous tips. Lies. Patterns. And then came the final blow, a report from when Olivia was just 18. She'd falsely accused a teacher of misconduct after he failed her. Victor stood so fast his chair screeched against the tile. His face was pale, but his eyes burned. You did what? Olivia stammered, tried to recover. That was a misunderstanding. He was. I cut her off. No, Olivia, you were. You've always been the problem. For a moment, she looked cornered, lost, and then her face twisted. So what if I did? She screamed. So what? I did what I had to do. They deserved it. I survived, and that was it. That was the moment she signed her own sentence. Caleb stepped back like he'd been punched. His face went white. He looked at her, really looked at her, maybe for the first time. You told me they were lying, he whispered. She turned to him, eyes wide. Caleb, baby, don't. He shoved her hand off. You used me. You used everyone. I threw away my marriage for you. She lunged at him, desperate, panicked. No, you love me. You said we were in this together. Caleb pulled away like her skin was fire. Stay away from me. And then he turned to me, eyes full of regret. I'm sorry. I didn't even blink. No, you don't get to be sorry. Not now. He looked down small, defeated, a man with nothing left. And for once, I didn't feel a damn thing. The fall and the freedom. Everything after that moment unraveled fast, like a tower crumbling after the final brick is pulled. Olivia stood there, frozen. Her lips were still moving, but no words came out. Caleb, he just stared at the floor, like he couldn't even face the weight of what he'd become. Victor was done. He didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just turned his back to them both, looked at me, and said, You don't ever have to worry about them again. Then he looked at Caleb, his own son, and the words hit like a final nail in a coffin. You're dead to me. Caleb didn't speak. He didn't even fight it. He just nodded slowly as if he knew he deserved it. Evelyn sobbed quietly at the other end of the table. She didn't defend her daughter. She didn't plead for forgiveness. She just sat there wrecked. And that was the last time I ever saw them in the same room. The very next morning, the dominoes began to fall. Victor kicked Caleb out of the house, locked the doors, changed the codes, wiped his name off every account he could touch. Evelyn refused to speak to either of them. Not out of anger, out of heartbreak. Within a week, Olivia was out of the family's will. By the end of the month, lawsuits, real ones. Brielle came forward first, then Leah, then a woman I'd never even met. Another name from Olivia's growing graveyard of victims. The private investigator passed along everything to a lawyer who specialized in civil harassment cases. And just like that, Olivia found herself on the receiving end of what she used to do to people. Public disgrace, legal action. Her carefully curated mask of innocence gone. No more sympathy, no more control, no more spotlight. Caleb? He disappeared. Rumor has it he's living out of a rundown motel just outside Milwaukee. Jobless, friendless, completely hollow. And somehow, I don't think he even blames anyone but himself. He shouldn't. He let it happen. He chose her. And now he's stuck with what's left of her. On the other hand, I got my job back. Once HR realized the entire smear campaign against me was fabricated, they not only cleared my name, they offered me a promotion. Apparently, surviving attempted character assassination qualifies you for management. I turned it down, though. I didn't want to go back to life as usual. I needed something new, so I took a solo trip to Italy. Just me, my passport, and not a single person demanding anything from me. I drank wine at noon, sat on rooftops, watched the sun bleed into the Mediterranean, and smiled for no one but myself. I reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with, people who reached out, people who showed up, people who didn't flinch when the fire started burning. And most importantly, I never looked back. Because here's the thing, revenge doesn't heal you. But justice? Justice lets you close the door and lock it. The last word. It's been months now. Long enough for the dust to settle. Long enough for the gossip to fade. Long enough for the silence to feel like peace, not punishment. And in that silence, I found myself again. People always talk about heartbreak like it's something you just get over. Like it's a cold, a bruise, something time patches up if you just wait it out. But that's not how it works. Heartbreak changes the architecture of your soul. It cracks the foundation. It rearranges the walls. It makes you see people and yourself differently. And once you really see, you can't unsee it. That's what Olivia never understood. She thought people were playthings, that she could bend reality to her will, control the narrative, always land on her feet. But she never planned for a woman who was done playing nice. She never imagined that the quiet one, the forgiving one, the take the high road one, could become her worst nightmare. Because when you push someone long enough, when you twist the knife one too many times, you don't just lose them. You create your own reckoning. And Caleb? He could have stopped it. He could have told the truth. He could have walked away. He could have loved me enough to protect what we had. But he didn't. And when you betray someone like that, someone who gave you their whole heart, you don't just lose a marriage. You lose everything. So no, I don't miss him. I don't miss them. I don't replay the memories. I don't second-guess my choices. I look forward now. I smile at strangers. I sleep through the night. I laugh, not to prove a point, but because I actually can. I love differently now. Smarter. Stronger. I know what I deserve. And more importantly, I know what I'll never tolerate again. Because once you walk through hell and come out the other side, you don't fear the fire anymore. You become it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more real-life family dramas. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's story. Was it fair or totally messed up? See you in the next one.